Welcome back for a review of One Piece Chapter 1071. If you're new to the channel, I post weekly One Piece chapter reviews, theory videos, and discussions, so if you're interested, please consider subscribing. And now getting into the discussion, as a surprising twist, we learn in the opening pages of Chapter 1071 that Kuma teleported himself to the marine base of Redport, which sits at the base of the Red Line. Given that Kuma was suddenly activated when Shaka gave the order to prepare for battle against CP0, Egghead seemed to be the more obvious destination. There must still be some connection between these two events, so perhaps Kuma intends to target someone in Marijois connected to Cypherpole, responsible for issuing the order to execute Vegapunk. Returning to Egghead, we see that the number orbiting the island cloud has once again increased, this time to 100. Perhaps this could signify Egghead's defenses have been fully fortified, but the number has been ascending ever since the Straw Hats arrived, long before the order to prepare for battle was issued. Thus it would seem this could be hinting towards something else, but at this point I don't have any great guesses as to what that might be. After the recent rematch, Lucci's refusal to accept Luffy as an emperor may seem overly egotistical, but I think this again speaks to the idea that Lucci has the requisite character traits to possess Conqueror's Haki. While Luffy appeared to have the upper hand, Lucci still managed to walk off his fight with Nika relatively unharmed. In similar fashion, Oda has repeatedly shown Luffy bounce back quickly after facing an opponent perceived to be more powerful, and it's again important to remember that good antagonists are equally capable of growth and change. We next see 6 of these 7 Vegapunks together debating strategies to make their escape from Egghead. Stella is already packed and seemingly ready for an adventure, but there's currently no clear way off the island. Shaka earlier indicated to Dragon that his demise was imminent, and he again stresses here that these satellites are designed to prioritize Stella's safety. This suggests that these satellites may need to be sacrificed in order for Vegapunk to escape the world government's grasp, which would offer a sort of Pyrrhic victory. Perhaps even more interestingly, through these satellites' conversation, we see a stark contrast in attitude and philosophy between Shaka and Lilith, Vegapunk's good and evil sides respectively. The latter not only mocks Shaka's insistence on prioritizing Stella, even to the point of his own demise, but also seems to be itching for a fight against Cypherpole. In earlier chapter discussions, I suggested that Lilith might be coordinating with Kizaru, which isn't refuted by her willingness to combat the world government's forces. Notably, Egghead's yet-to-be-explained string of disappearances exclusively involved Cypherpole agents, and there seems to be a rivalry between Marine Intelligence and CP0. Kizaru's forces assembling in the waters offshore may ultimately be positioned on the opposite side of this conflict. While certainly the Marines have no intention of letting Vegapunk escape, they may also be more interested in keeping him alive in order to continue making their weapons of war. Ultimately, I think it's possible both Shaka and Lilith have found ways to compartmentalize secrets from the other satellites and even Stella Vegapunk, playing a sort of chess match behind the scenes. While Punk 02 seems more than willing to sell her services to the highest bidder, in this case perhaps Kizaru, Shaka has been moving pieces in place to aid the Straw Hats from afar, Kuma and Momo's Devil Fruit to name a few examples. Despite being a scientist, Stella seems to be particularly preoccupied with the concept of destiny or fate, and often acts just as recklessly and carefree as certain members of the Straw Hat Pirates, which contrasts with Shaka's calculated and analytic persona. I think this further evidences the idea that Stella Vegapunk isn't presently whole, having fractioned pieces of himself in creating his satellites. It seems his persona has changed or shifted since the earlier conversation with Dragon on Ohara. Stella and his satellites then reveal that they have a trump card, a yet-to-be-seen ally presently on Egghead who can apparently make their path of escape easy by diverting Cypherpole's attention. However, doing so will put this mysterious benefactor at risk by placing them in the world government's crosshairs. Nevertheless, Stella shamelessly calls for assistance, and the other party responds affirmatively that they've always been awaiting Vegapunk's call for help. At this point, this person's identity is a complete mystery. Even the Denden Mushi is shadowed to hide any visual cues as to who Vegapunk's ally might be, so the best we can do is look at the context clues. Said person is presently on Egghead, and their intervention would completely turn the tables on Cypherpole, making escape easy, despite Stella having already recruited an Emperor of the Sea and his crew. This person also seems to have a long-standing relationship with Vegapunk, as they've been expecting this call for a long time. The dialogue also suggests Vegapunk's mystery ally speaks in a calm and polite tone. When we look at all of these clues together, we aren't really left with a ton of options. The fact that Vegapunk believes this ally would make escape easy could suggest this person is overwhelmingly powerful, more so apparently than even Luffy. Most characters who fit that bill like Dragon and Shanks are presently located elsewhere, but importantly they're already wanted criminals, so aiding Vegapunk's escape wouldn't really change anything regarding their standing with the world government. It's important to note that the dialogue here is intentionally ambiguous. It's unclear if this person is already a fugitive, hiding out on Egghead unbeknownst to the world government, or if they're instead a person presently in good standing with the government whose true loyalties would be exposed by aiding Vegapunk's escape. The former doesn't really leave us with many options. An extremely powerful fugitive in hiding on Egghead, whose whereabouts would be revealed by helping liberate the world government's premier scientist. As noted, most known characters in that class of power are already elsewhere. So barring something completely crazy and unpredictable like Rock's Dizabek or a former member of Roger's crew, we could potentially be looking at a brand new character, like the person who shared drinks with Crocus, or maybe even an escaped level 6 prisoner, given they're being used as lab rats by Dr. Vegapunk. A friend of mine also suggested Sabo could be an option if he was somehow rescued by Vegapunk from the ruins of Lelouch, which on an interesting note would finally allow Lucci vs Sabo to be canonized. Ultimately, however, I don't really think any of these are likely options. The fact that the Denden Mushi was shadowed suggests we're already familiar with this character's face, as their features needed to be obfuscated. This seemingly rules out the possibility of a brand new character, or at least makes it far less likely. The dialogue only specifies that Vegapunk's ally is presently on the island. While this could imply they've been in hiding for some time, it's also possible this person only recently arrived. Vegapunk's dialogue might suggest this mystery person could simply be exposed through their efforts to help Vegapunk escape, which means they could presently be a government agent in good standing. Smoker's absence thus far on G14 seemed to stand out, but he only met Vegapunk recently after the incident on Punk Hazard, and thus couldn't have been expecting this order to come to Vegapunk's defenses for a particularly long period of time. He's also seemingly entirely ruled out by the mystery caller's polite dialect. Not to mention, Smoker doesn't seem anywhere near powerful enough to make the type of difference in this battle the satellites are expecting. Interestingly, the original Mads lineup, revealed on the cover of Chapter 1070, may have hinted that Stussy was a former member of Vegapunk's scientist supergroup, and she certainly seems to have some familiarity with Egghead. Notably, the mystery caller responded in such a way that they wouldn't reveal the person to whom they were speaking. Thus, Stussy may fit most of the criteria for this mystery ally. She's presently a Cypherpole agent whose loyalty isn't in question, and thus would be exposed if she turned traitor. She may have a history with Vegapunk, and thus, if she was also working as a subversive agent, could have expected this order for quite some time. Vegapunk's assertion that this ally's help would make escape easy naturally leads to the assumption that this person is overwhelmingly powerful, but aid can come in multiple forms. Perhaps the implication is instead that Stussy, working as a double agent, could simply sabotage Cypherpole's efforts without their knowing. Stussy was surrounded by agents when this call was made, but again the mystery person responded in such a way that the nature of the conversation could be kept secret. That being said, the fact that Stussy doesn't seem to have the opportunity to answer a call between panels is perhaps the biggest piece of evidence against her being the person on the other end of the line, which leaves us with one more interesting possibility: the real Bartholomew Kuma. This was the first thing that came to my mind when reading the chapter. Both his fate and the reason for his decision to be subjected to Vegapunk's experiments have been long-running mysteries, and we know the original Kuma's personality starkly contrasts that of the emotionless killing machine we've seen thus far. It's possible the real Kuma has been in hiding all this time, and would be exposed by coming to Vegapunk's aid. Kuma would have a long-standing relationship with Vegapunk, and his polite manner of speech would fit Bonnie's image of her father, directly contrasting the world's perception of the Tyrant King. It's possible the person presently believed to be the real Kuma is another pacifista, considering Vegapunk can now replicate Paramethea powers through synthetic green blood. As such, Kuma's devil fruit could in theory make Vegapunk's escape easy, so much so that it begs the question why the Straw Hats would even be necessary. So ultimately, I think the two most interesting and perhaps most likely possibilities regarding the identity of Vegapunk's ally are either Stussy or the real Bartholomew Kuma, but as noted, there are other options also worth considering. That being said, the plan of escape is further complicated by Bonnie chasing Stella away from the rest of the group, which I think again lends weight to the idea that this battle isn't going to be particularly quick or straightforward. Splitting up simply means that it's going to take more time for everyone to again be regathered. But before that, it seems Vegapunk may finally reveal some answers regarding Kuma, which as noted could be directly tied to the identity of this mysterious ally. Cypherpole is then able to infiltrate the Frontier Dome's defenses because someone inside, for some reason, intentionally disables them, if just for a moment. Stussy seems puzzled, so if she is Vegapunk's ally, this wasn't her doing. It would seem Vegapunk and his 6 satellites are the ones who'd have the most access to lower the Frontier Dome's defenses, but the motive for doing so isn't clear. This leads back to the idea that one or more of the satellites is working independently for their own secret purpose. While I do think it's possible Lilith harbors ulterior motives, I don't think she's working with Cypherpole. Rather, I think she could be working with Kizaru and Marine Intelligence. She did seem eager for a fight, so I suppose it's possible she allowed Lucci, Kaku, and Stussy to infiltrate the lab for that reason. But in this case, I'm not so sure it serves what I think could be her interests. Unless of course she plans to make these Cypherpole agents disappear just like the others. All that being said, she seems genuinely surprised. It's possible Shaka has also compartmentalized secrets, but in this case he also seems shocked at Cypherpole's infiltration, and it's hard to imagine a motive for sabotaging Stella's escape, unless perhaps he doesn't want to let Lilith off the island. It seems we're now poised for another rematch, as once inside the dome, Kaku attacks Zoro asleep aboard the Thousand Sunny. Just as Luffy and Lucci's battle offered a visual callback to their prior match on Enies Lobby, the circumstances of Zoro and Kaku's clash mirrors their first meeting on Water 7. I can only hope this means we're soon going to see an awakened, square-nosed giraffe Kaku. The scene then cuts away from Egghead as we see the Kid Pirates making their approach to Elbaf, the land of giants. After chapter 1066, Jaguar D became by far the most likely candidate for the burn-marked man with information about the last Road Poneglyph's location, which, as I noted in my earlier chapter discussion, makes him a clear target for Eustass Kid. Initially, I thought it was an old worn or weathered map guiding the Kid Pirates, but much more likely, Killer seems to be holding a Viver card, and the dialogue suggests they didn't know Elbaf would be their destination. Thus, they didn't arrive in the land of giants by following the log post directly from Wano. They must have somehow tracked down this Viver card, which guided them toward Elbaf. This makes sense, as Kid didn't know the identity of the burn-marked man they intended to pursue. We're certainly seeing the seeds now planted for the future Elbaf story arc, and as noted in the past, I'd love to see a clash between Luffy and Kid in the land of giants. While the giants are notoriously resistant to outsiders, Kid may receive a warm welcome for his part in taking down Big Mom, whom the people of Elbaf despise. In any case, the fact that he's going to arrive long before the Straw Hat Pirates means he could play a prominent role in the future Elbaf story arc. In the final scene of the chapter, we see Garp arrive at G14, intent on rounding up a posse to accompany him on a mission to rescue Koby from Fullalead, and it seems Hibari and Helmeppo are his first volunteers. Vice Admiral Dahl refuses and criticizes Garp for not asking Aki Inu's permission, which indicates she, Smoker, and Tashigi are much more likely to join Kizaru's fleet assembling on Egghead. But Garp's rushing in to face Blackbeard, just like Ace, doesn't bode particularly well. That being said, I'm not really concerned that Garp is going to be killed, but I could certainly see his being endangered, along with Koby, Law, and Pudding, could prompt a more immediate clash between the Straw Hat and Blackbeard pirates than it might otherwise seem. Garp is no pushover, so he could certainly do some real damage, and as I noted in my review for chapter 1063, Oda choosing to demonstrate the Titanic captain's abilities far in advance could evidence that they're not going to be the major endgame enemies for the Straw Hats some might be expecting. In any case, much like the start of the New World, Oda is simultaneously laying the groundwork for multiple story arcs, so the course beyond Egghead isn't entirely clear at this point. On Fishman Island and Punk Hazard, Oda set up conflicts with both Big Mom and Kaido, which were slowly woven together, leading to the pivotal clash on Wano. In similar fashion, it seems Oda is simultaneously building toward both conflicts on Elbaf and Fullalead, and at this point it's uncertain which direction the Straw Hats will head first. But before they can worry about what lies on the horizon, they'll first need to make their escape from Egghead with Dr. Vegapunk. And for the time being, it seems the battle in the land of science is just getting started. That's all for this week's chapter review. Thank you for watching. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you want to be notified when future videos are posted, please consider subscribing, and remember to hit the bell icon to turn on notifications. It really helps this channel grow, and I really appreciate your support. But most important, make sure you let me know your thoughts down in the comments.